Keep me in jail. Anyway, I want my grave in a jail. Yeah? Yeah!
That was recorded inside a police vehicle in the early hours of July the 22nd, 2024. And as disturbing as that footage was, that is not even the most horrifying part of this case. The most horrifying part is that Shane March was a convicted murderer who had already attacked a pregnant woman before Alana. The authorities had his full history, every single detail of it, and they still let him walk free, twice. Which leaves you with one question. What kind of justice system looks at a man like that and decides he deserves another chance? Because Alana paid for that decision with her life. On the night of July the 21st into the 22nd, 2024, the neighbors in Alana's building in Walthamstow heard a fight so loud, so violent, that they pulled out their phones and started recording it through the walls. That is how bad it was. Not a couple arguing over something trivial. The kind of noise that makes you sit up and think, something is really wrong in there. What they didn't know was that on the other side of that wall, Shane March had locked Alana out of her own flat, while her 2-year-old daughter slept inside. He eventually let her back in, and then he picked up a kitchen knife and stabbed her 19 times. Alana made it out of the flat. She collapsed on the pavement outside. She was still conscious when neighbors found her, and with whatever she had left, she pointed directly at Shane and said his name, said he had stabbed her. He was standing right there, watching her bleed out, and he simply turned and walked away. She was pronounced dead at 3:52 in the morning. Shane March walked into a nearby cafe, told the staff he had killed his wife, and laughed when police arrived. Authorities later released footage of his arrest, and it was absolutely disgusting.
Yeah! I don't regret nothing. Yeah? Give me the death chamber. Yeah? That's what I want. A lethal injection and put me out of my misery. Yeah? And let me just drop this job. Either way, it doesn't bother me. I'm devil's picnic. Yeah? There's a place for me now in hell. Thank you. Thank you to the kind officers. Thank you. We cool with this. Yeah?
Everything's cool. We're recorded in the van, sir.
I don't ever want to come up. Keep me in there. Keep me in jail. Anyway, I want my grave in a jail. Yeah? Yeah! That's me. You see my face? Yeah! Yeah! I'm a demon. Yeah!
Now let's go back to the beginning, because Alana deserves far more than just that. Alana Odysseos, born Alana Yates, was 32 years old, born in Newmarket in Suffolk in 1992. People who knew Alana described her the same way every time. Kind, principled, happy-go-lucky. In fact, here's her mother, smiling, as she joyfully recalled cherished memories with her daughter.
Problems she had going on, she'd always be there for each one of us. And she had such a huge heart, you know, and a wonderful sense of humour. She would, you know, we just have so many happy memories, and that's what we can have to constantly.
Additionally, her sister Jasmine said she was the first person to show up when anyone needed support, and that when Jasmine became a young mom herself, Alana was her biggest anchor. She had 2 daughters. Her eldest was 12, her youngest, Victoria, was 2 years old at the time of her death. And by every account, Alana was completely devoted to both of them. That was the center of her world, her girls. But Alana had also been carrying something heavy. Not long before she met Shane, she had lost the father of her youngest daughter, Russell, to a self-inflicted gunshot. Anyone who has been through that kind of loss knows it doesn't just break your heart, it pulls the ground from under you. Everything feels uncertain. You're not really looking for fireworks, you're just looking for something steady. Something safe, a reason to believe things can be okay again. And that is exactly the state Shane March found her in. Now, Shane March was born on the 9th of February, 1978, in South London. And here is his history, because you need to know all of it. In 1995, aged just 17, Shane March was already showing exactly who he was. He was convicted of assault and criminal damage. And while those charges might sound minor compared to what came later, they weren't a blip or a one-off mistake. They were the opening line of a criminal record that only got darker from there. In January of the year 2000, age 21, Shane March armed himself with a knife, found a group of teenagers outside a McDonald's in Denmark Hill, South London, and decided on his own that they had robbed some of his friends. He stabbed 17-year-old Andre Drummond in the neck. Andre died. At trial, Shane claimed self-defense. The jury threw it out entirely. He was convicted of murder and sentenced to life with a minimum of 13 years. 13 years. For killing a teenager. He was released on life license in early 2013. Life license in the UK means you come out with strict conditions attached, regular check-ins, follow the rules, stay out of trouble, or you get recalled. The whole point is that the system keeps watching you. However, less than 6 months after his release, on the 17th of July 2013, Shane March violently attacked his girlfriend, and she was pregnant. He stomped on her abdomen, but fortunately she survived. He was immediately recalled to prison. But against all odds, he was released again on the 5th of February 2018. 6 years later, he met Alana. Now here is the question that Alana's family has been asking ever since. And honestly, it's the question that should be asked in Parliament, in every probation office, and in every courtroom that ever considers releasing someone like him. If a man murders a teenager, gets out, and within months attacks a pregnant partner, why is he ever released again? Why is the next woman in his life not automatically told who he is? Alana was not told. She was lied to. Shane told her that his previous conviction was the result of being mugged, that someone had jumped him with a knife and he had accidentally caused harm in self-defense while trying to get it away from them. And Alana, who had no reason to disbelieve him, believed him. According to reports, they met in spring 2024. The relationship lasted 4 months total. The two met in London, and in the beginning, he was the full picture, attentive, warm. He talked about her daughters like he cared. He talked about the future like it was something concrete he was actually building. After the grief Alana had been carrying, that kind of attention felt like finally being able to breathe again. Her family were glad for her. Her friends were rooting for her. Nobody was looking for red flags because there was nothing obvious to flag yet. That is how it always starts with people like Shane March. They don't walk in the door being horrible. They walk in the door being everything you ever needed, until you're attached enough that you can't see clearly anymore. By May and June of 2024, the picture was already changing. Alana was telling friends the arguments were constant, that his temper was out of control, that he was obsessively jealous, accusing her of cheating despite controlling literally every aspect of her life. Her father said something that said it all. He told people that his daughter had changed after meeting Shane, that this once outgoing, confident woman had become nervous and withdrawn. The control came in layers. First, the calls. He needed to reach her at all times. Day, night, didn't matter. Miss one, even briefly, and the interrogation would start. Where was she? Who was she with? Why didn't she answer? Then just answering wasn't enough. It had to be video. She had to show him the room she was in. She had to prove she was alone every single time. Think about how exhausting that is. You cannot go anywhere, do anything, without having to stop and justify yourself to someone who is supposed to love you. Then came the isolation. He told her he didn't want her talking to other people. Male contacts were deleted from her phone first, then acquaintances, then anyone he didn't recognize. He framed it as insecurity, as jealousy, as him caring too much. And look, it's easy from the outside to say that's obviously controlling. But when you are inside it, when someone has spent months making you feel chosen and special, you find ways to explain these things. You tell yourself he's just protective. He's been hurt before. He'll calm down. He sent voicemails, not loving ones, screaming insults, threats. He threatened to have Victoria, Alana's 2-year-old, taken away from her. That threat specifically, using her daughter as a weapon against her, was calculated in a way that is genuinely chilling. In the cold light of day, it wouldn't have gone anywhere, but when someone has been dismantling your confidence for months, that threat feels completely real. During one argument, he destroyed Victoria's toys, went through them and smashed them because he was angry and he needed somewhere to put it. And on one occasion, confirmed in court by Alana's close friend, who testified that Alana had shown up at her door afterward with a severe facial injury, March smashed a glass directly into Alana's face. Let that register. A glass into her face with force. Do you know where your carotid artery runs? Because he either didn't care or he did. Alana told people she was scared of him. She said it clearly and plainly to someone she trusted, and her sister Jasmine texted her telling her she deserved so much better. Alana wrote back 4 words that her family has never forgotten. Can't help who you love. And then she added something that showed she wasn't naive about what was happening. But he don't love any of us. She knew. She just couldn't find the way out yet. On the night she died, Alana sent a message to her sister. She said March was acting up. She said she was scared. He had come over earlier that evening to help her move some furniture. Completely ordinary setup. Just a Tuesday night in a flat in Walthamstow. Around midnight, the building started waking up. Neighbors began hearing a man's voice through the walls. Loud, aggressive, relentless. And then Alana's voice, thinner, more desperate. People were so alarmed that they started recording on their phones because something about it did not sound like a normal argument. One neighbor later testified to what they heard Alana shout, "I don't want to kill my baby." Then Shane did something that showed exactly the kind of man he was. He locked Alana out of her own flat, her home, with Victoria, her 2-year-old daughter, still inside asleep. At 12:30 in the morning, CCTV on a nearby street caught Alana walking alone in just a dressing gown. Pregnant, distressed, locked out of her own home while the man who had locked her out was inside with her child. At some point, he let her back in. That was not reconciliation. That was him not being finished. Before 3 in the morning, Shane went to the kitchen. He picked up a knife, 24 centimeters long. Think of a school ruler with just 6 centimeters taken off. And he attacked Alana. She was stabbed 19 times. There were also 5 slashing wounds across her body: chest, stomach, pelvis, shoulders, arms, thighs, legs. The forensic pathologist who later examined her, Dr. Matthew Keka, who performed the post-mortem on the 23rd of July, confirmed that 5 of those 19 stab wounds were each on their own individually fatal. 5. 3 of the wounds involved the knife passing through bone, including one that went clean through her shoulder blade. He described a number of the wounds as inflicted with approaching severe force. She had deep defensive wounds on her hands and cuts on her lower legs. She was on the ground at some point, kicking out at him, fighting back. Right to the very end, she was fighting back. A prison officer later testified in court that while waiting for a bail hearing, Shane casually began describing the attack. He said he had been arguing with Alana about his trainers, that he found himself in the kitchen, that he saw red, grabbed the knife and stabbed her, and then he said that as he was attacking her, as she was dying, Alana said to him, please stop, you have murdered me." She said that to him, and he kept going. At 2:58 in the morning, neighbors heard a commotion outside and found Alana collapsed on the pavement in front of the building, blood pouring from multiple wounds. And here, even in this moment, Alana Odysseos showed more strength than most people will ever need to find. She was still conscious. She looked at the people gathering around her and she said, clearly twice, "Shane stabbed me. He stabbed me." And then she raised her hand and pointed at him. He was still there, standing nearby, watching her bleed out, just watching. When neighbors confronted him, he said nothing. He just turned and walked calmly down the street as sirens could already be heard approaching. As he walked, he was getting rid of everything. The knife went into an alley. It was recovered later, bent, still covered in Alana's blood. He dumped his blood-stained clothing. He threw 3 mobile phones into a drain, his own phone and Alana's phone. On one of those recovered phones, police later found a voice note he had recorded for his mother. He never sent it, but it was there. In his own voice, he said, "Mom, I just killed a woman, and I'm going back to jail." Not her name, not Alana, just a woman, like she could have been anyone. Paramedics arrived and worked on her on the pavement. Her injuries were too severe that at 3:52 in the morning, Alana Odysseos was pronounced dead outside her own home. When officers entered the flat, they found Victoria, 2 years old, unharmed, in her bed, crying for her mum. The investigation was led by Detective Inspector Nicarti and her team. The crime scene inside the flat showed clear signs of a struggle, blood, overturned furniture, confirming that the attack had begun inside before Alana managed to get out. The murder weapon was recovered from the nearby alley, bent from the force used, still carrying Alana's blood. One of the mobile phones March had dumped in the drain was also retrieved. Digital forensics on the recovered devices gave investigators something critical: months of messages between March and Alana laying out the full timeline of his controlling and threatening behavior, his demands for video calls, the threats, the voicemails full of screaming insults, the messages threatening to take Victoria away. All of it documented, all of it preserved. Police also recovered data from Alana's phone via cloud backup and from WhatsApp messages on her sister's device. giving them a detailed record of what Alana had been experiencing in the months before her death. March initially spoke openly about his guilt in police interviews. Then, as the weight of what he was facing became real and his legal team got involved, he switched to no comment. He was charged with murder and remanded in custody. Given that he was already a convicted murderer on life license, bail was never a consideration. The trial opened on the 8th of October 2025 at the Old Bailey. Prosecution was led by Louise Oakley, defense by Sandeep Patel. March's strategy was diminished responsibility. He pleaded guilty to manslaughter on that basis, arguing that while he had caused Alana's death, he had not intended it in the way the law defines murder, that he had lost control, that he couldn't fully recall his intentions in the moment. Louise Oakley dismantled that argument piece by piece. She walked the jury through what he actually did after the attack, calmly walking away while Alana was dying, systematically disposing of evidence, throwing phones into drains, recording a voice note for his mother. None of that, she told the court, is what a man in the grip of an uncontrollable psychotic episode does. That is what a calculating person does when they are trying not to get caught. The witnesses built the full picture. Alana's sister Jasmine testified about the messages Alana sent on the night she died, that March was acting up, that she was scared. Alana's close friend, whose name was kept out of the media, confirmed the controlling rules, the video demands, the deleted contacts, and told the court that Alana had shown up at her door after March smashed a glass in her face. Neighbors described what they heard through the walls that night, including Alana's voice saying she didn't want to lose her baby. One neighbor confirmed that as Alana lay bleeding outside, she said Shane's name and said he had stabbed her twice. The forensic psychiatrist brought in by the prosecution was clear. March did not meet the criteria for diminished responsibility. He was not suffering from psychosis. He was not in the grip of severe mental illness. He understood what he was doing. The pathologist's findings confirmed the severity and the number of the wounds, and specifically noted that 5 stab wounds were individually fatal and that the force used in several was approaching severe. Then, on the 17th of October 2025, March's own defense psychiatric expert withdrew their support for the diminished responsibility claim. With nothing left to argue, March changed his plea. He stood up in that courtroom and pleaded guilty to murder. The jury returned a formal guilty verdict on direction from the judge. Sentencing was on the 31st of October 2025. March initially refused to leave his cell at HMP Belmarsh to attend his own sentencing. He had to be connected via video link. He sat mostly expressionless throughout. He gave no apology, no statement, nothing. The judge sentenced Shane March to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 42 years. He is 47 years old. It is one of the longest minimum terms handed down for a single domestic murder in recent UK memory. He will almost certainly die in prison. Meanwhile, Jasmine Yates has not stopped moving since the day her sister died. In late 2024, she launched a campaign for what she is calling Alana's Law, a proposed set of legal reforms aimed at making sure that what happened to Alana cannot happen to the next woman. As of now, the petition has over 37,000 signatures. In March 2025, MP Stella Creasy raised Alana's name in Parliament during an International Women's Day debate, reading it aloud alongside dozens of other women killed by men that year. The campaign calls for several things: mandatory real-time background checks when a known violent offender begins a new relationship, automatic Clare's Law disclosure, meaning instead of a woman having to know to ask whether her partner has a history of violence, authorities should proactively tell her. Fast-tracked protection for pregnant women reporting abuse, because pregnancy is statistically one of the highest risk periods in a domestic abuse situation, and better public education on coercive control, starting in schools, so that young people can recognize the warning signs before they are already inside them. The core argument is simple. If Alana had been told the full truth about Shane March, the murder conviction, the attack on a pregnant partner, the life license conditions, she might still be alive. She was deceived, she had no way of knowing, and the system that was supposed to be tracking him did not protect her. The Ministry of Justice is currently reviewing the life license regime. Victoria, Alana's 2-year-old, is growing up without her mother. Her 12-year-old sister is doing the same. A family that was, by every account, one of the most warm and loving you could imagine, is now permanently changed. Not because of a moment of madness, because a man with a fully documented history of fatal violence was released twice, and nobody told the woman he would go on to kill. Alana Odysseos, 32 years old, A mother, a sister, a daughter. Someone who would dig in her purse for a stranger in a queue who didn't have enough change. Someone who showed up for everyone. Someone who just wanted something steady after carrying more grief than most people ever face. All she wanted was to be loved.